Hello, I'm Adrienne Molenkamp of the League of Women Voters of Athens County. Welcome to this candidate forum for the Nelsonville City Council race. We hope this event will provide you with information for the upcoming election. There are 5 candidates running for Nelsonville City Council, and 4 of them will be elected to seats on council. The candidates participating tonight are Greg Clement, Elizabeth Pidcock-Jones, and Corey Taylor. We appreciate these candidates for being able to participate tonight. The other candidates are Justin Booth and Ofa Lawson. Justin had planned to participate tonight, but something came up at the last minute and he's unable to be here, and Ofa had work commitments and is unable to join us. But voters, remember that you will be able to vote for up to 4 of the candidates on your ballot. Please make sure that you have your voting plan for this November's election. The last day to register to vote or to update your address is October 4th. Early voting starts on October 5th at the Board of Elections office on Court Street in Athens. If you want to vote by mail, you must submit a written absentee ballot request form. The absentee ballots will start being mailed to voters on October 5th. Election day is Tuesday, November 2nd. You can verify your polling place by contacting the County Board of Elections office. In addition to candidate events, our league publishes a voter guide in which candidates provide written answers to questions. Our voter guide is currently available online at vote411.org. And it will be published in the Athens News tomorrow, September 29th, and in the Athens Messenger on October 2nd. The voter guide lists all the contested races and the issues that will appear on the ballot in Athens County. The League of Women Voters is dedicated to expanding public awareness about government issues and encouraging active participation in government. The League does not support or oppose candidates or political parties. Despite our name, the League is not for women only, and we welcome participation and support from all people. Please visit our website at Athens County League of Women Voters.org to learn more or to become a member. If you appreciate our candidate events and voter guides, please consider making a donation on our website to support all our local work. Thank you. Now we'll turn this event over to tonight's moderator, Tanya Conrath.
Good evening. Thanks, Adrienne. I want to welcome everyone to tonight's candidate forum, and I'm going to begin by explaining tonight's procedures. Tonight's forum will include an opening statement by each candidate, a question and answer session, and then a closing statement by each candidate. Candidates will have 2 minutes for their opening and closing statements, plus 1.5 minutes to answer each question. And there will be no rebuttals in this forum. The order for speaking will rotate, and I will indicate who speaks first. The candidates can see our timekeeper, and she will indicate when each speaker has 30 seconds remaining, 10 seconds remaining, and when their time has expired. If a candidate continues speaking past their time, I will simply say thank you and move on to the next candidate. Candidates are invited to share their qualifications and experience, to talk about their plans and proposals. Candidates were asked, however, to focus on topics relevant to the stated question and to avoid personal attacks and raising issues that are unrelated to the office being sought. If they go outside of these guidelines, I will gently remind them of them and get back on track. All questions from the public were received ahead of time through the email address included in our advertising, and were then reviewed by a league panel. The panel removed any questions that, 1, could not be answered by all candidates, 2, were statements rather than questions, or 3, were duplicates of other questions. I will ask as many questions as time allows, striving to cover a variety of topics before ending by 8:30 tonight. All right, let's get started. We're going to begin with our opening statements. Greg Clement is our first speaker, and you have 2 minutes, and make sure to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. Thank you to the candidates that were able to attend and all the voters that are listening in. And hopefully there's quite a few of them. I want to start with my wife and I have lived in Nelsonville since 1995. I've previously served on city council for 18 months back in 2004, 2005. And after that, I served 3 years on the planning commission. For 10 years in my hometown back in Iowa, I was a volunteer fireman, which was a pretty eye-opening experience. For the last 20 years, I've attended council meetings, committee meetings, and recently the virtual meetings, which the virtual meetings have been great, but it is a little hard for participation that way. But obviously due to the pandemic, that's what we were dealt with. So again, I want to thank the other candidates and best of luck to you. Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we'll have an opening statement from Elizabeth Pidcock Jones.
Thank you, Tanya. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for the invitation to participate and for the other candidates who are here this evening. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Pidcock Jones, and I am running for a 4-year term on Nelsonville City Council. I am currently a member of City Council following an appointment last July. I've been a resident of Nelsonville since 2009 when I relocated from the greater Cleveland area. However, Nelsonville was not a new city for me. I grew up in Athens and graduated from Athens High School and Ohio University. I spent a lot of time in Nelsonville growing up, as it is my mother, Karen Keller Pidcock's hometown, and where both my maternal and paternal grandparents, as well as many aunts, uncles, and cousins, and I have a very big family, lived. My daughter is a 2020 graduate of Nelsonville York High School and is currently a junior at Ohio University. I've enjoyed being a member of City Council over the past 13 or 14 months, and I feel that as a group, we are working well together and have a good vision for what is possible for Nelsonville. We live in a historic city in a beautiful region of the state and have much to celebrate about our city, but there is work to be done. And I look forward to continuing that work if I am voted for another term. I also want to add that if you hear noise in the background, it's my dog, Rocky. He does not have much Zoom etiquette. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And last but not least, Corey Taylor, you have 2 minutes, and make sure you unmute.
Thank you, Tanya. I also want to thank the
Corey, it looks like you've been muted again accidentally. So start again and let's start his time again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Tanya. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this and reaching out to me to participate. And I'm thankful that I was able to join. So I'm going to be running for a 4-year term as well. I've served in the past. I'm just completing my 10th year that I've served on council. I've lived in Nelsonville. I'm not originally from Nelsonville, east side of Cleveland originally, and came down here for school. But I've been here since 1995. I've been pretty involved within the community over the years through Boy Scouts, coaching, baseball, basketball. My boys are from Nelsonville. They graduated in 2021. So I've tried to be involved as much as I can and try to give back to this community. So not being from here, I do call it home. I love this community. I've chosen to live here. I like a lot of the people here. We've got a great tight-knit community, and I appreciate that. And as Elizabeth alluded to, we are, I feel like the council is working really well right now. I feel that we are moving in a great direction. I think we have a great vision for Nelsonville, and I want to continue that on as well if I can. And so hopefully we can make that happen. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. And now we'll move on to the questions from the public. As a reminder to our candidates, you have 1.5 minutes for your answers. Elizabeth, you will be the first one to answer this question. Why do you want to serve as a member of council?
I want to continue serving as a member of council because, first of all, I think that we are making good progress in the city. Secondly, I realize that in order for our city to progress, you need people to participate and not just sit back and quarterback about what should be done. And that's what I chose to do a year ago when I applied for a vacant seat on council. We live, as I said in my opening statement, in a great region of the state that attracts a lot of tourists around here. And as a city, I think that we can capitalize on that, but there's some work that we need to do in order to make that happen. I want to see Nelsonville become a go-to city for people who are moving to this area for other employment opportunities and around. And I also want to see us increase our economic development possibilities. You know, we're only an hour from a major airport here in Nelsonville. So I think that there's a lot of growth potential for us, and I want to be part of that.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Next to answer the question, Corey, it's the same question. Why do you want to serve on council?
Main reasons are still the same from the initial reason why I wanted to be on council originally, and that is to help the community, to give back. Nelsonville gave me an opportunity. A lot of people don't know my history, but I grew up very poor in a very wealthy area. And when I came to Nelsonville and some folks took a risk on me as a student and offered, employment for me, it gave me an opportunity to kind of break a chain in my own family heritage. So for me, it's always been important to give back, something that I was raised with. So I wanted to participate as well. You need people to, do the work too. And it is a lot of hard work. But the main reasons I've wanted to be part of council is to hopefully improve housing in this community, improve infrastructure, and improve jobs. And I feel for the first time in a long time, I feel very positive and optimistic about that. I feel we have some good leadership in our current city now that have been moving some of these tasks forward. And so I'm very grateful for that. But it's hard work. It's a lot of hard work. It doesn't, you don't solve it in a council meeting or in a few months. Sometimes it takes 6 months before you actually get the ball rolling on some of these projects. But I'm very pleased with the direction we're going.
Thanks, Corey. And Greg, same question. Don't forget to unmute too.
Yes, having previously served on council and the planning commission, I think I have experience and knowledge of how council works. Yes, we are moving forward, but I think council as a whole could be better. And we can improve on the projects that are in place. The sewer treatment plant, that's a big positive. Our street department has been doing an awesome job. And I would just like to participate and help move those projects forward and new ones that are coming on board. And obviously, technology is changing quickly. It was just brought up about the charging stations for vehicles. That's going to be a huge asset to the community. And we need to keep moving forward. And I would just like to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. All right, next question. And Corey, you'll be the first to answer this. What is the top issue facing Nelsonville, and how could council assist in addressing it?
Well, we've had several issues on the top of that list, but some of them have been whittled away here recently. We did have a lot of drug issues in the city, and we've been slowly resolving that over the last year with some new leadership there, and I feel things are turning around pretty well there. I think our housing issue, thanks to the land bank and all the work of everyone who's been involved in that, has been starting to help us with some of the dilapidated homes and vacant homes that we've had issues with in the city have been becoming better as well. It's an improvement. So at this point, I really believe that our probably at the forefront now is going to be infrastructure. As Greg mentioned, we do have a sewer plant project that's occurring right now, and that'll be a huge, feat for us once that's completed. However, we still have a lot of really old water lines currently. We have failing streets and curbs and sidewalks. So I think it's time to, maybe put a little bit more emphasis on the infrastructure improving and being able to attract those folks that Elizabeth alluded to that want to live here. They might only be, they might work in Columbus, but it's a great place to live. So, but that's where I would say our number one priority would be now.
Thanks, Corey. Greg, you are next. Same question. What is the top issue facing Nelsonville, and how could council assist in addressing it?
Well, I think right now the biggest issue is the one that just came up about the census count. That's going to be huge to get our numbers back up over 5,000 to remain a status of a city. And if we don't do that, it's going to have some real negative impact on the city. And they're asking, city council and the city administration is asking for volunteers to help. We have 10 days to get this process started and completed. And that's going to be huge. We need to make that a top priority for the next few weeks. The other is, I think the last few years, the voice of the citizens has been lost on city council. And city council needs to be more open and receptive to ideas and comments from citizens. I think that's huge. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Elizabeth, same question.
Thank you. I would agree that currently right here in this moment today, the biggest issue, as Greg said, is the census. But council took action on that last night. We have 10 days to do a revision count, and that's underway. Otherwise, to me, the biggest issues facing our city currently include vacant property, which includes vacant business core around the public square, and the need to get businesses back into town. And then also infrastructure. We have a very, as do a lot of communities around here, aged infrastructure, from water lines, to our streets. Still a lot of brick streets that are hundreds, over 100 years old, and there's issues with those as modern day trucks and cars drive across them. Getting that infrastructure repaired is a big part of what we need to do. That will also assist in bringing, new economic development, business opportunities to our city.
Great, thank you. If elected, I'm sorry, let me first of all say, Greg, you'll be the first to answer this. If elected, what steps would you take to put Nelsonville on a firmer financial footing? So if elected, what steps would you take to put Nelsonville on a firmer financial footing? And Greg, you're up. And
well, I think our city auditor has led the charge in that, working with council and the administration. Again, the census is going to have an impact on that. If we don't remain a city, we're going to lose funding on projects. And at least keep looking forward, see what projects we can implement for the economic development. Yes, the infrastructure is huge, and keeping that moving forward. We've had some projects done that will help with that. So thank you.
thank you. Elizabeth, same question.
Sure. Thank you, Tanya. I second that. I think to be on firmer financial footing, it's a tongue twister. We have a strong city auditor in position right now who has discovered a number of ways to help our books. I think we have a city manager who's strong about doing some strategic planning for the city so that we're better planners, and we're being proactive and not just reactive to things in the city. And that's going to help us get on better financial footing. And then I think also, as I stated, just working more cohesively as a group to find those funding opportunities that exist for us in the city. And, again, yes, if we lose city status, so I'm pretty confident that we will be able to show that we have more than 5,000 residents in our city and retain our city status. We would lose some funding from that. But again, I'm very confident that we're going to be able to get that taken care of.
Thanks. Corey, same question. What
Okay.
steps would you take to put Nelsonville on a firmer financial footing?
So yes, I agree. I agree with the sentiment that our auditor, Taylor's done a great job for us, and and Scott Frank is our city manager. He's had a lot of he's worked with budgets a lot with his background, so he does a great job of being able to allow us to use the budget more appropriately within the city. He's restructured a lot of our departments so they work more efficiently, more effectively, and reduced redundancies. And Taylor, this is the most transparent the city's ever been since I've been involved. That we know more about what's actually going on within the city and our books than we weren't part of before. It was never shared with us. You could ask a question and things were not always, that transparent. So with those two currently, I'm very pleased with the progress they've been making. And I agree, Scott plans ahead. We're not, oh, by the way, we need this and it's, $10,000. We're not having to come up with funds at this point. We're actually starting to set money aside for those future projects. And last, it's going to be, we've got to get more of those businesses filled. We need to be able to help the businesses in town grow, income tax, improving real estate in the community also is going to help with the values. So I'm hoping those are going to be the ways that we generate more revenue for the community.
Thanks, Corey. All right, next question. And Elizabeth, you'll be the first to answer. And all three of you have touched on this, but I'm going to try to get you to narrow down your focus with this question. What do you think is the city's biggest infrastructure challenge? And how should it be addressed?
I think our biggest, infrastructure challenge right now to me is aged water lines. We have constantly, water line breaks, water leaks, issues with that where unfortunately, we're having to, again, tear up streets that have, recently been repaired because there's a major water line break, which honestly is kind of to be expected, right? When you have 100+ year old, water lines going through the city. So I think that, our city manager, Scott Frank, is developing a plan about how we can do that, about how we can get in there when something happens, that we replace things and not just do patching jobs constantly. I know that we're looking into, other funding sources in order to get that done. But that is a major issue. And again, I know it's not just an issue for the city of Nelsonville. It's an issue I'm seeing around, the region, with water line breaks happening in other places. But to me, that's the biggest issue that we need to deal with, because it's just a constant thing. And it takes our employees off of doing other projects to constantly be patching water lines.
Corey, same question.
So I agree 100% on this. The water lines is probably the biggest challenge that we have right now within the community. And every time there's a water break, we have to shut the water down and then they turn it back on. And then it also creates pressure issues for residents, air in their lines. And every time they turn on faucets, now you're blowing gaskets, blows corrosion that's built up in some of our pipes into their hot water tanks, then burning out elements. So then it creates a downward spiral of, reoccurring costs that you wouldn't necessarily have in a regular maintenance of, say, a hot water tank or in your faucet. So, these are all issues that are pushed back to the citizens. So if we have the ability now to go and start, isolating these issues and redoing streets at a time instead of just maybe 6 feet here, 6 feet there, I think that it's going to be a better process for the city. The city of Logan has done this recently. They've been going through the process of redoing streets with, water, sewer, gas lines, what have you. So I think it's some sort of strategy like that we need to adopt. We also have a main water break that's currently flowing still into the Hocking River that we're trying to resolve. And we're running into not only issues of water pressure, but environmental issues. So I think that's our number one issue that we need to deal with initially.
Greg, same question. What do you think is the city's biggest infrastructure challenge and how should it be addressed?
Well, the water lines are very important. We can't repair streets unless we have the water lines fixed. Right now, our capital improvement split on the income tax, I believe it's only 10% going to capital improvement. So how can we create a 5-year capital improvement plan if we only have 10% of the income tax going towards that? So that means we have to borrow money. And then it's an endless cycle that we can't seem to break. And I think Corey knows, you've been on council a long time, that that's hard to break. If you look at how much money we have going out at the beginning of the year just to pay for loans, grants, and that kind of thing, our money's tied up before we ever get to it. So we need to get back to that 15-20% for capital improvement, but that's going to be difficult to do too. The sewer treatment plant, that's going to be a big project when completed. And what kind of issues will that create between now and then? So that's what I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. All right, next question. And Corey, you'll be the first to answer this. Citizen engagement is important to the health of local government. How do you plan to involve residents in the city's decision-making process?
Yeah, so I've always been pretty, open out in the community. I'm around the community often, either working on, properties or out shopping. So I'm usually very open. People usually come up to me there. I've always published my cell phone number. People can get a hold of me. I think going forward, though, having meetings that are open again are going to be, always been a good way for us to be able to get feedback from our constituents. The challenge that Greg was talking about with the pandemic, the virtual, it might have been easier for some to watch because they had the means of watching it from home, but the reality is, though, it was not an easy way and it was not an effective way, I don't feel like, to be able to communicate with your constituents or really hear what their issues are. So I think that going back to, open meetings where people can attend and voice their concerns or come up with ideas, I think is going to really do well. We had a census meeting today, which I volunteered to be one of the 5 people on the committee. And so, I'm planning on being out there talking to neighbors and folks in the community already. But I think that we had a good, strong participation today. And that's what I think we need, is to get back to open meetings where they can come in and talk to us, one-on-one.
Thank you. Greg, same question. I'm sorry, Greg. Seal, can we pause his time? That mute button. Great.
Okay, good.
Go ahead, Greg.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I've been attending council meetings and committee meetings for over 20 years. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. Council needs to be open to comments from the citizens, but also citizens have to reach out and participate also. The committee meetings are the nuts and bolts of what happens. Council meetings are just, you vote on the legislation, all the projects were worked on in committees. So the committee meetings are very important. And when I would attend them, I would look around and most times I'd be the only person there, maybe 3 other people. So committee meetings are very important. And so even the recreation committee, the lesser ones that you believe are lesser, you need to have attendance by the committee or community so that they can understand what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. And finally, Elizabeth, same question.
Sure. I think that we have lots of ways for people to be engaged, and I would encourage anyone watching and any voter to come and be engaged. So in addition to our regular council meetings and committee meetings, we also have open seats right now on our zoning board. I think we have a couple open seats on the planning commission. We have open seats on the tree commission. We have ways for people to be involved and play a role in leading our city. So I encourage anybody out there who's interested in being part of the solution to move Nelsonville forward to come and join us by joining one of the commissions that we have open seats on. The other thing that I would like to do, and I've proposed this to council, is to have regularly scheduled committee meetings versus just scheduling them here and there as business happens, which has been the tradition in the city. You know, what I have proposed is that we divide the committees up on off council weeks and have committee meetings, you know, scheduled regularly. And that way people can plan to come. And I think you would have better participation than scheduling them 24 hours in advance. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, next question. And Greg, you'll be first to answer. What role, if any, should the city council play in promoting good relations between citizens and either city government or city services?
Could you repeat that?
Absolutely. What role, if any, should the city council play in promoting good relations between the citizens of Nelsonville and the city government and city services?
Well, just be open to communication. If elected, I'm going to put my cell phone number out there. My wife won't like that probably too much, but I'll be available. If someone wants to call me, you know, at a reasonable time, I'm available. So you have to have participation. You have to communicate. That's the only way we can move forward, because a lot of people have good ideas. All ideas should be heard. And I think that's been lost the last few years, is the voice of the citizens. There's been a few issues that council worked on that not everybody agreed with. And I think it was due to a lack of communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth, same question.
Sure. So I know for me that, you know, when we are talking about a fairly major issue that we're going to be voting on, I seek input from citizens and people I know. So I think that's another thing. But ultimately, I feel that we are a pretty now transparent group. The city manager is very open to talking to people. The city auditor's office is very open and receptive to having conversations with citizens. So I think that the thing is that we need people to participate. I don't think that there's any major roadblock that exists from having people being engaged and involved. They just need to reach out. I know that it was easy during the pandemic for people to, you know, type a comment on Facebook, but we can't take those all the time, even at face value, because we don't know who's writing them and if they're even in our community. So I think that we need people to come to the meetings, come to committee meetings, come to council meetings. If you have an issue, all of our emails are on the website. You can email any of us. You can, you know, schedule a time to meet with the city manager or anyone, and you'll get a response. It's a very responsive group now. Thank you.
Thanks. Corey?
Okay, I think I got it. Yeah, I agree. I agree with Elizabeth here. I don't think there has been an issue. I think, as Greg's kind of alluded, there is a perception that folks in the community don't believe that we want to listen to them or what have you. But there's often I've found that social media has been where this has been a bad thing. You know, people will go out and blast the city or city workers and but not necessarily know what's really transpiring. And then when you ask them, hey, did you reach out to the city manager? Oh, no, I didn't. They didn't try to contact anybody. They just, decided to be critical. And I don't think that's fair to, our employees who, we have some very dedicated, hardworking employees that have done a lot of great work, and right now we're trying to balance that for them so they don't burn out. But I think that honestly, the committee meetings, Greg's right, 100%. Our committee meetings is where the work gets done. I like the fact that those are now broadcasted online because people can at least see what's being done there, but they need to participate in that. Also, as Elizabeth mentioned, we have boards and committees that have vacancies on them, and those are made up of constituents in the city, and they are our sounding board. If people feel that they're not getting anywhere with trying to talk to a council member, or if they're intimidated, they can go to these boards and bounce those ideas and bring it to the city. So I'd like to get back to that structure where we do have more people participating involved.
Thanks, Corey. All right, next question, and Elizabeth, you'll go first. What is something you think the city council could do to improve the everyday lives of citizens? So what is something you think the city council could do to improve the everyday lives of citizens?
So I think, honestly, continuing some of the work that we've been doing, which is putting additional resources into our police department, with the ability to hire more officers and create outreach programs there. One of our officers is doing some outreach to get people into rehab. And I think that's a big benefit. I think, the work that we're doing also with code and zoning is going to improve our citizens' daily lives, which is, honestly, cleaning up some blight in the city that has crept in over the years. We have a strong code enforcement officer now, and somebody who's really dedicated to doing that work. And I think continuing support along those lines is really what's going to help make an impact, truly make an impact that's felt daily by our citizens. Thank you.
Great. Corey, same question. What is something you think city council could do to improve the everyday lives of citizens?
So first of all, I agree with Elizabeth. We can continue the work that we've been doing. We've been doing some great work. However, so I serve as the chair of the judiciary meeting, and I'm going to give Elizabeth all the praise here because she did all the work. We formed and this was started in the previous council when I was off for a couple of years, we created a code of conduct, and that we all signed and said that we would adhere to. And in my opinion, honestly, if we're going to be in these positions, we need to lead by example. And if we're expecting the people in the community to be respectful and respect the community, respect each other, participate, then I think we need to do that as well. We've had some, infighting. We've had some issues, on council and council members with other folks. We need to make sure that we don't participate like that anymore. We need to make sure that we constantly are respectful. It's a difficult thing. I try not to, stir the pot so much on this, but the reality is we do have issues there. And I think for council, we need to set the bar on what we're expecting from our constituents and what, we should be held to a higher standard, in my opinion.
Thanks, Corey. And Greg.
So two things. Yes. Council did create the code of conduct, and it's been worked on for quite some time, going back to the previous city council. And in reading those rules, this is kind of a touchy area for me. I'm not sure all councilmen are actually following those rules of conduct. And I'm just going to leave it at that at this point. The second thing is there's groups and organizations in the community that do a lot of work. And I don't really see council working with those groups, Chamber of Commerce, a couple other organizations. that would help improve the daily lives of the citizens. Just getting behind those different groups and organizations and helping them, volunteering and all that. So thank you.
Thanks, Greg. All right, next question. And the first answer will be Corey. How important is regional, sorry, let me start again. How important is regional cooperation to the future of Nelsonville? Are there areas where you would like to see more regional cooperation?
So, yeah, we're absolutely, regional cooperation is important. It's important regardless if we're city or village. You know, the sum of the parts is greater. You know, the sum is greater than the parts, but you know, I think it's very important that we work with other agencies, organizations around us, other communities. We've done this with Hocking College, as we recently with our police dispatching, and that's been a great partnership. They've been in Nelsonville and our community for, you know, a long time, and we really have not had that partnership. I think it's very important, since we host a regional jail in our community, it's very important for us to you know, work with the counties that are, you know, bringing prisoners to that jail. So, you know, because we're the ones at the end of the day, when they're released, it's impacting our community. So I think it's important that we work and collaborate with them as well. Since we are part of the end of the, you know, the southern end of the Hocking Hills, I think it's important for us to be able to work with that region as well, maybe capture some tourism dollars that would help us and impact us economically. And I think it's important that we have a good working relationship with our county commissioners. We've had some bumps in the roads there, but I think that we're, you know, we are on a better plane now with them, and I hope we continue that.
Thank you, Corey. Greg, same question. How important is regional cooperation to the future of Nelsonville? And are there areas where you would like to see more regional cooperation?
Yeah, Corey nailed it there with the regional jail. Obviously, everyone's pretty aware of the issues with that. And it seems to be a breakdown between the city, the regional jail, the judicial system, and include the county commissioners in that. There's a lot of issues with the regional jail, and everybody's going to have to work together to resolve those. And the best example of working together is our fire departments. When there's a situation that one department can't handle, the mutual aid is so important. And I think if we would follow the example of the fire departments in the area, that could be an eye opener. Thank you.
And Elizabeth.
Sure. I won't add anything about the regional jail, although we know that we have issues there. And I think that we're working on it. Our police chief is actively working on that issue. But I do think that we need a better and stronger relationship with the county commissioners. I think that, you know, one of the things I like to talk about a lot is, you know, Nelsonville is the city in Athens County that's closest to a major airport. We're right off of a highway. We have land for development, and more focus should be put here on us, and more resources should be, you know, looked at being invested in this city. We also have one of the largest employers in the county here in Nelsonville with Rocky Boot, who've been in the city for in this area, you know, for a long time. So I do think that we need more, you know, regional cooperation, and, you know, I'd like to be part of it. Greg mentioned in his last answer, working with the Chamber of Commerce and all that. You know, Greg, we do that outreach. I've done that outreach myself on various issues before we've put forward legislation over the past year. The pandemic's been an interesting time for us, right? So some of those things aren't as visible right now as they would have been in the past because of the way communication is happening more behind the scenes, but I feel like we can get there. So thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. All right, the next question, Greg, you'll be the first to answer. What ideas do you have for strengthening the public square business district?
Well, the public square with the businesses seems to fluctuate. It goes up and down with the times. And right now it does seem to be down. However, there is some development going on the square. Maybe that will help, and just reach out. What spaces are open, what kind of businesses could occupy them, and help those people as much as possible. One thing I said last time I ran for city council, our brick streets in the city are in pretty poor condition. We don't have the money to rehab them, but if we're going to be a historic downtown and community, one area we should have bricks is on the square. Get rid of the asphalt, bring the bricks back, and make it a focal point. It would be so much nicer to have those bricks on the square. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Same question, Elizabeth. What ideas do you have for strengthening the public square business district?
Sure. So first of all, I want to applaud Greg for that. That's actually something I've said numerous times, is that of all areas in the city of Nelsonville that should be brick, it should be the public square, and it's blacktop, but we'll get there. I think, again, it's going to be coming up with some incentives potentially to get businesses in town. We've talked about that, doing something like that, creating a business incubator or business incentive plan. I think that we need to work with the landlords around the square who own those vacant buildings, to talk to them about what can be done to bring things in. But as Greg said, he is right. There's currently some development happening around like a bakery deli type thing. There's some development around potentially a wine bar. There's some development happening, further off the square, but for a hotel structure. So I think things are happening, but I think we need to provide some incentives, honestly, to get that moving quicker.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And Corey.
So yeah, there is quite a bit development currently happening. So we will have hopefully some new businesses. We've had some, changes of ownership of some buildings in the downtown area, which has been good. We've seen some buildings revitalized. We, hopefully we'll eventually also have a hotel down there, which will be a draw. The pandemic has been difficult, with Stewart's Opera House being one of our anchors in the downtown, hosting a lot of events. They hadn't been able to do that for some time. So I anticipate with that coming back, that's going to help draw some more folks back into town. I think that we've discussed having, the downtown area is kind of a Dora area. There's been other cities that have done it. I believe Athens is doing it in sections of their city, which I think would draw, more folks out to our town square, hosting more events in the community. We just had a BMW motorcycle event, Wayland Wayans, I think it's called. And hopefully we can continue building events such as that. They love coming to the public square. And I believe that actually helping this community become ATV friendly will also bring some of that draw of folks from out of town to our community, and especially the town square. So I think that those are all things that will benefit our community.
Thanks, Corey. All right, so we are to our final question. So it's one last question, and then we'll move to closing statements. And this is a little bit of a dream question. Elizabeth, you will be the first to answer. If you received $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why? So $1 million.
Wow.
What would you do with it and why?
Right. I know $1 million sounds like a lot, but it's, it's not a lot, unfortunately. So what would I do with $1 million? Honestly, I think at this point in time, I would invest it in some kind of economic development program to entice new businesses or business expansion from existing businesses. Because I want to applaud and thank our existing businesses in the city for staying here, for being committed to the city of Nelsonville, for all the years that they've done that. So for me, I think I would put it towards, business incentives, existing businesses, new businesses for that. I think we're seeing some expansion already with our ATV, plan, seeing more recreational tourists come here. So I think there is potential to see that kind of business expansion. So that's how I would invest it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you for playing along. Corey, you're up.
I agree. $1 million is not a lot. We just were awarded $2 million for a street project that'll take place in 2025, and we're still $1.2 million short. So it doesn't go very far, unfortunately. But I like the idea of economic development. I've served on the Athens County Economic Development Board for Nelsonville for a couple of years, and work closely with them. And I personally, I'm a big fan of it. I loved it when they did the Startup Nelsonville and gave away a $15,000 grant, and they ended up starting a business here. So I think that, if we were able to help businesses get started in the community or help existing businesses grow, that's probably the most bang for our buck with $1 million, to be honest. Unfortunately, any infrastructure or anything, it probably wouldn't even touch it. So, but if there's a way for us to continue branding Nelsonville as the star of the Hocking Hills, then I'm all for that. And I would love to be able to attract more people to come and visit and see our beautiful town. And if we can do that, I'm all for it. So I personally would probably put it in some sort of fund where we can, incentivize people to start some businesses.
Thanks, Corey. And Greg.
Well, Elizabeth and Corey are right. $1 million is not going to go very far. Is it a one-shot deal? Just 1 million? Back in 2004, 2005, when I was on city council, we paid for a comprehensive plan. And since then, I don't believe it's ever been updated. I've kind of said the last few years, give that comprehensive plan to the planning commission, let them work on it and update it. So I don't think it's one person's vision. And I've been saying that the citizens need to participate. I would put together a steering committee and let those people decide how to spend $1 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to closing statements now. And just as a reminder, you each have 2 minutes for a closing statement. In keeping with the order that we're going in, the first to speak will be Corey.
Okay, well, great. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to talk, answer some questions. I think it is a good forum. There's often, when we're in meetings, we don't get this type of forum where people necessarily always get to ask questions and get poignant answers. So, I just look forward to be able to serve the community again. It's a place that I've called home. I'm all in on Nelsonville. I've invested everything that I have to win this, not to win the election, but to have Nelsonville win and be productive and, be a great place for people to live and grow up. My boys are here. I want them to be very proud of that. And I know that they're searching career paths right now that may take them away from Nelsonville, but I'm hoping that, Nelsonville is that place, similar to Scott Frank's story, where he was gone for 20 years and then he came back and now he's giving back to his community. And I'm hoping that, that's the type of place that we have that, my boys will hopefully eventually come back and contribute as well. So I'm proud to be here. I'm going to live here regardless. So I want to help out and contribute the best that I can and the most that I can. So, for anybody who thinks that I'm not approachable, then, I challenge you otherwise. And I look forward to speaking with people and being able to, help them or help them understand, because there's, unfortunately, with our politics that you see in the community, not everybody understands how the process works. And so I'll be more than happy to help you. There's no reason for me to lie or to, change my story. I'll be very poignant with you and what we've been doing. So very transparent. So I just appreciate the opportunity. So, all right.
Thanks, Corey. Greg, 2 minutes.
Well, again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for this forum. I wish the other two candidates could have been here. I think it's been very informative, and thank you, Elizabeth and Corey, for participating. Also, thank you to the voters who have been able to tune in, and you will be able to watch us again, correct? So I would just like an opportunity to represent the city and help it move forward. Things are progressing. If we can make the final few steps, I think Nelsonville will be a great place to be. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. And yes, we will, after Elizabeth gives her closing statements, remind people of where this can be watched. So Elizabeth, 2 minutes.
Great. So I also want to thank the League of Women Voters and Corey and Greg and anyone watching this evening, and whoever watches it in the future before you vote. I joined City Council to make a difference in our city. It was something that I pondered for a while. Actually, there'd been a vacancy before that I considered applying for and didn't do. And then when another vacancy came up, I decided to do it. And honestly, it's been a very worthwhile experience. Even with some of the struggles and issues that we've had, I have found that being part of City Council to be a positive thing. And I want to continue that. I want to continue to see our city move forward. I had the opportunity when I came back to this area after being gone for 15 plus years to live anywhere. And I chose to live in Nelsonville because it's where my parents were. And I like living here. I like the pace of life that I have here. And I like being close to my friends and family here. So I'd like to continue serving on City Council. I want to see our city continue to do great things and continue to grow. And as Corey said earlier, kind of be the star in this region that it deserves to be. We have a rich history in the city. And I think that we can kind of, polish some things up and get back there. And I look forward to getting there. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Well, that's it. I want to close this forum by thanking our candidates for participating. A recording of this event will be viewable on the League of Women Voters of Athens County Facebook page, as well as on our website, which is Athens League of Women Voters, all spelled out, .org. And also I want to thank the people who are watching as well, the citizens of Nelsonville, for tuning in to learn more about these candidates for council. A quick reminder, the deadline to register to vote or to change your address is October 4th. Early in-person voting at the Board of Elections on Court Street in Athens begins October 5th, and you can check their website for the hours. And then Election Day is November 2nd. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.